time for Cedar Crest Today.
Good morning, another Thursday and another month. Welcome to July and welcome to Cedar Crest Today, the Edie May show. I am May Fisher and this is my friend
Edith Domble.
Right, you see, I can't say her name, so she has to say it for me. And we want to welcome you and hope that you recuperated from your 4th of July, which was a very interesting day because here we had the early lunch. And I had a hot dog, which I have about once a year. And it was a very big hot dog.
Yes,
very good.
I had one also.
And I love the watermelon and I love the strawberry shortcake. They're making it the way they used to make, the old-fashioned way. It was
really?
very good. Mm-hmm.
Well, I usually have the watermelon for dessert. I don't try to stay away from sweets.
Oh, I thought from water. And then at 5:30 in the afternoon, was an unusual occurrence. Rita Shedlin and Robbie Furman, who always try to put something together for those of us who are here on holidays, ordered the Village Square living room, which we had before. And I always go over there to work, to help Rita out. And when I got there, it was already lines like a mile long. Uh-huh. And they had a turnout of probably twice the number of people.
Wow.
People were sitting in the dining room. People were sitting all over. I mean, it was, just amazing. And I just kept, because I'm so aware of it with the Jazzy, keep the aisles clear, keep the aisles clear. We had, in case of any problem, we have to keep the aisles clear. But people were just desperate for a place to sit or park themselves. And it turned out to be a really, really fun evening, and I want to thank Rita and I want to thank Robbie for making it so. And everybody said, "Oh, everything was so seamless," But the funny thing behind, and Rita, I'm telling you a secret. Rita had some really interesting, funny things to do on the television set, and of course there was something wrong with the television set, and they couldn't use it. So that. Like we do. We winged it, and nobody knew the difference.
Right.
So it was really a lot of fun. And people who wanted pizza could order pizza. And Regina always orders the pizza, and she did. She put the order in, I think, at 6 o'clock to be delivered at 7. It came at 8:30. By that time, most of us went home, but the people who stayed had a very good time eating the pizza. But I want to thank Rita and Robbie again, and we look forward to doing Labor Day in the conference center where we can hold 200 people, easily. So again, that was fun.
Good.
And there is one announcement that I have. Music is so good for us. However we do it, whatever music we like, the music can be a very inspiring, calming, exciting kind of thing in your life. And there's going to be a special concert Tuesday on the 11th of July. And it's called Moments of Music, a violin and viola concert in the Cedar Crest Village Chapel at 1 o'clock next Tuesday. So that is next Tuesday,
yes.
The 11th. Mm-hmm. Time is going too fast. And if you're around on Mondays and walking past the Village Square Music Room, you can always stop in to sing. That's where the people are playing their guitars, but it's also a sing-along. So if you can't play guitar and you still like to come and sing along and just have an hour of fun, try it. It's very good. Yeah.
Very good.
Do you sing?
I do.
Good.
Yeah. I'm in the Cedar Crest Singers.
Yeah.
Didn't you go to the concert? What's the matter with you? Of course you were. You went to the concert.
I think I remember. Everything rolls into one here. Yes. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Now, do you have something
for us
today? Yes,
positively, and it's so apropos considering the guests we have today.
Okay.
How did the French fry propose to the hamburger?
I don't know. How did the French fry propose to the hamburger?
He gave her an onion ring.
That is a Cedar Crest joke. That's
very apropos, right?
Yeah, and we say it's apropos because we have a mystery guest today. The guest that we're going to have Marlene Kahan, who is new, is like what happens to all of us. She's not well today, and so we have a mystery guest. But I want to invite you all to come and see Marlene's paintings. They're hanging in the gallery opposite the TV studio in Belmont, and she does fantastic work. And she will be on with us, and we will show you her paintings, the other paintings on slide, when she is better and comes back. So hurry up, Marlene. We'll reschedule
get better.
Yeah.
And thank you for those lovely paintings. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, they are. And when you see the slides of all the others, you'll be, really impressed.
Wow.
She uses color very nicely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so now
We go to a commercial. But come back, we have a very interesting guest.
Hello, this is Don Rogers. I'm here at the Belmont Billiard Room to tell you about our pool group that plays 8-ball every night except Sunday night from usually 6:30 when we finish dinner until we get tired. And that's pretty soon some nights, others we stay late. We want to welcome anyone who wishes to play. We will. If you come up and you want to play pool, you'll get in. We have usually 6 to 8 players of an evening, and we also are lucky enough to have several onlookers that come because they like to watch us. We had a tournament in June, which was the 13th since 2012, and we invite anyone who wishes to play to come up.
Very good.
I would ask that if you come and you play, you return the cue sticks to where they belong and chalk put away. We take care of the place ourselves, and this will make it much easier for us. Thank you. Hope to see you here at the Belmont Pool Room.
Well, welcome back. And now let me tell you why we have a mystery guest this morning. When I found out early this morning that Marlene was not well enough to come on the show, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'll find somebody along the way, I'll just drag them in. We always have a way of doing that, don't we? And I'm sitting downstairs in Belmont, and who comes through the door but Paul Cimins, the director of dining. Now, we have kind of an unwritten policy here that this show is to introduce neighbors to neighbors. The Tuesday show very often has staff members talking about, and also certain heads of departments have their own programs.
Right.
So, but I see Paul Cimins and I said, aha, I'm going to break the protocol and invite a staff member, and I'll tell you why. Because when Paul first came here, he put out a notice, which I understand not everybody read. It was on one side it was the dining things, on the other side it was introducing himself. And Paul said he's very active in the autism spectrum disorder movement. And that right away clicked with me because my great-grandson has autism, has been diagnosed with it. And so I said, oh, I need to learn more. And so I introduced myself to Paul, and we've been talking, and we're going to start a discussion. And if it proceeds, if there are enough people, we'll proceed with it. We'll bring in guest speakers. But I would like you all to meet in his other hat. Not in his dining room hat, so don't ask us anything about why wasn't the hamburger made to my specification. He doesn't cook. Anyway, I'd like you to meet Paul Cimins.
Oh, well, thank you both for having me on your show. It's an honor. Really happy to be here today.
Well, thank you for being run over.
Yes. Literally.
That's probably what she almost did. That's right.
Yes.
So, Paul, tell us, how long have you been here?
I've been at Cedar Crest now just a little over 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So still fairly new, but getting, comfortable with my role here and getting to know the residents and the community really well has been great.
Well, everyone that we speak to of you is very impressed with you, and you're very friendly, which is wonderful. We senior people need friendliness.
Absolutely.
And
we don't need any frown faces, right?
Especially from young people.
Right,
yes,
right.
Young
positively.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Now, where do you live?
I live in Roxbury, New Jersey.
Okay.
That's very
It's about 35, 40 minutes from Cedar Crest.
And what is your past experience?
Well, my past experience, I've been a chef for 30 years. Been in the culinary industry. Went to Culinary Institute of America, Hyde Park, New York. My family had a business that I was, involved with as a little kid. Grew up in the restaurant industry, so I learned a lot about the business. And then what brought me to autism was my son. My son Jonathan was around 2.5 years old.
Tell us something about your family first.
Sure. I have a daughter. She's now 16. She goes to Roxbury High School. I've been married for 20 years, my wife Adrian. And we moved to Roxbury about 17 years ago. I've been living there now. We lived in North Carolina for a short period of time. And that was my first time that I actually worked in assisted living. Actually, I was a food service director, which was a very short-lived thing because I moved back to New Jersey within 9 months. And it's kind of an interesting story because my grandfather had open heart surgery, and it made me realize that I needed to be closer to my family. Because when I flew back for the surgery, I said, you know what, I can't be far away from my family. And it was like 9 hours away from them. So I decided to leave my job as a director and come back to New Jersey. And then I started my own business.
Very good.
So.
Very good. So your son, you said, has...
My son was diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder when he was around 20, 21 months. Kind of knew something wasn't right with him, some of his odd behaviors.
Like what?
He would flap his hands, he would do a lot of spinning. I think the biggest thing, though, is that his speech and language was progressing. He was learning, vocabulary words like, pretty normal, road. And we noticed regression. Like he was losing words and his vocabulary started to change. His health went also downhill. He was getting chronic ear infections. He was sick a lot. And we noticed little by little his behaviors got worse. His sleep behaviors were really poor. He wasn't sleeping. There was a lot of changes about it. And I said, something's not right. And I think my wife at the time, she was a little bit in denial, and I think a lot of parents do that. She kind of said, oh no, he's going to be fine, and took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, no, he'll be fine, and he might be just delayed because he had an older sister, and the second child syndrome, that kind of stuff, and I didn't feel comfortable with that.
The pediatrician didn't recognize you?
No, did not at all.
Wow.
And at that point, I said, I talked to a few people that, friends of the family that are doctors, and actually one of my friends of the family is an orthopedic surgeon, and I just had a conversation with him, and he said, maybe you should get a second opinion. And, of course, always being raised, one doctor's always right. You don't go against their opinion, but I decided to get a second opinion. I went to a pediatric neurologist, and that's when I got my answer that my son was diagnosed with autism at that time. And we didn't know what autism was. The only thing I knew at that time was the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. And I didn't know anything else about autism. And, that was a different form of autism because he was very high functioning, very intelligent, very, mathematical genius. Whereas my son was nonverbal, becoming nonverbal. So it was like a very different thing. So I was very confused what really autism was.
Yeah, that's interesting because the more I'm learning about it now, of course, my great-grandson Mikey was diagnosed fairly early, was in early intervention, which is so important, and now is in a special school. He also is nonverbal, or very little, but he's beginning to, I don't know whether it's mimicry or what, but with his therapist, he's beginning to, like when he came to visit me the last time, and they called me abuelita, they use the Spanish, nice little word for grandma. They said, say hello to abuelita, and he didn't say abuelita, but he said the syllables, da 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 da. He's beginning to be able to mimic or respond to the syllables of the word, the music of the language, rather than all the sounds so far. But he's beginning with the sounds, but it's a hard road. Yeah. But luckily, physically, he's well. And he's tall and he's strong, and as I was saying to you, appears to be fearless, but that's because they don't know the end. They
don't know the danger,
where they are in space. Yeah.
Self-awareness. They don't have that body awareness necessarily of danger, and it takes them longer to learn that process. Mm-hmm. But they will eventually learn those parameters. Most children will at that time.
Now, when your son was diagnosed, what did you do for him?
I started researching at that time. This is going back in 2003, 2004. There was not a lot of information out there at that time, and I just got lucky enough that I found an organization actually called COSAC at the time, which was the oldest group that which basically covered the autism spectrum disorder since the 70s. And they're actually no longer in existence anymore, which is a shame. But I went to my first meeting, and it was for parents, and it just gave you a taste of other families and what some of their journeys were like. And that was the first time it kind of opened my eyes to, there's just so little information out there.
But one of the reasons why I approached you about doing the talk that we'll talk about in a minute is that it's a growing concern, and it's worldwide growing concern. In the United States, I don't know, maybe ahead of the game, and there are large pockets in the United States where it's more prevalent. And what was it? In New Jersey, it's one in, I forgot what it was already.
1 in 46.
1 in 46, but among boys, it's much more prevalent. And it's interesting because I've been reading a lot, and it says that the girls are diagnosed later because of the socialization or whatever is different with girls and boys. The girls are diagnosed later. So I thought that I want to know more. And then I spoke to a few people who have relatives, nephew or grandchild, or who have been diagnosed. And they call it the autism spectrum disorder now because there's such a range, or such a tremendous range in the symptoms and the way the person functions. And I was even fortunate enough to meet one of our neighbors here, and I hope he'll come on TV, come on to see us, who has Asperger's, brilliant mathematician, fine person, great brain, functions, was a professor, but is aware of, some of the differences. And my daughter said not to use disabled, but to use, let's see if I remember, she's in the field, non-typical. That's the new thing. There's typical, instead of using normal, use the word typical. Right. So it's less of a badge of things. So tell us about the organization that you're involved with.
Yeah, well, I started a podcast back in 2007.
What is a podcast? Okay,
podcast is an internet radio-based show that you can listen to on your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, any kind of electronic computer device. And it was a 30-minute show, and it became very successful. It was a way to reach out to parents, family, caregivers, to talk about the topic of autism, because a lot of people weren't talking about it unless it was a special seminar, and there was far and few of these seminars. So I wanted to create like a weekly thing where someone can listen to some information, get some inspiration, feel like they're not so isolated and alone. And the show got very popular, and we actually got syndicated on Clear Channel Media, which now is iHeartRadio, and they syndicated my program on FM radio. And we slowly grew that program, and now we're on 54 FM stations throughout the country, the UK, Canada, and also in South America. Our show's on Univision, and it's converted into Spanish now. So it's become very big. I mean, we have a base, I don't know exactly, but our listenership potential could be in 18 million people worldwide, which is a big number. So the fact that, you know, May was saying before how the numbers are so prevalent and growing, you know, like I always say this, it's like a double-edged sword. I'm happy my program has grown, but at the same time, I'm not happy to see what's kind of going on and why we're having so many kids that are struggling with the autism spectrum.
What are the different theories about why it appears to be growing now?
You know, this is a very touchy topic. I've talked about this topic many times over the years on our program. And, you know, there's many different theories. You know, one used to go back to, you know, talking about the changes in the vaccines today, environmental factors, you know, our foods. You know, they talk about a lot of different aspects. You know, and they found there is some, I guess, kids that are predispositions. They talk about their immune systems may not be as strong, maybe compromised compared to generations before. I don't know. You know, we really don't know, but everybody has a different theory on that.
Is there a hereditary factor?
There is a gene factor. There is definitely a genetic factor, which, like I said, it can convert into a predisposition, which makes that child more prone to it. And you know, they talk about the difference between boys and girls is the girls have the extra chromosome. So what happens is with the boys, you know, they don't have that extra chromosome to take over where the girls do. That's why it seems to be more prevalent in boys than girls, and that's kind of what their scientific, you know, findings are with their research.
I think personally, you know, from reading and just living, I have a feeling that with many of the things that are hitting us today that were maybe not so prevalent before, is that there is a genetic tendency, but doesn't mean that it has to be full-blown, that something triggers it.
Right.
Something triggers it. It's almost like when they talk about the herpes virus. It's always in your body, but doesn't mean you're going to get shingles. But if something does trigger it, you will get shingles, but you still have that herpes virus. It's something there that I personally think that the air we breathe doesn't help us at all. And because I was reading about how it's not prevalent in places like Mississippi and everything, and maybe because it's less congested than we are here. And just think about New Jersey. You know, I'm not from New Jersey originally, and New Jersey was always a place we drove through to go someplace else, to Pennsylvania or wherever we were going. And look at the number of roads we have here. And in fact, after I moved in, and there was an article in the Record about 287 in Morris County, having some of the highest particulates because of the number of roads and the big trucks that go through. Yeah. And I said, gee whiz, I was leaving Brooklyn for fresh air, right? So, but I want to bring to everybody's attention that if you didn't get your Mountain Matters yet, there's our lovely poster that was made by Nick for us. And we are going to have a meeting on Wednesday, July 19th at 1:30 in the Woodland Commons Music Room. Now that holds a limited number of people because we hope if it's overflowing, we'll move someplace else. So we are going to try to get into a little bit deeper about what we know about, what we think we know about autism. But in the Mountain Matters on page 17, we have a whole discussion about upcoming meeting, and we have a picture. The graduation picture was graduation from what?
This year from 8th grade.
From
He's going
8th
into
grade.
high school.
Oh. And there is Jonathan in that picture. And the small picture above, Great-Grandma May's little Mikey. And as you can see, Mikey looks healthy and happy, and Mikey rarely looks into your eyes. He's beginning to look at you. You know, you can see now, especially if he wants something. He did something once absolutely amazing. It's almost like telepathy. I was holding one of his toys, and he came over and stood in front of me, didn't say a word, of course, but stared at me, which was so unusual because usually they avoid eye contact. And he kept staring at me, and I realized he was sending me a message that he wanted that toy. He wouldn't take it from me. And I said, "Is this what you want?" And he took it, you know, and it was fine. But it's almost like he thinks you know what he's thinking. It's an amazing thing to watch how they negotiate it so differently than we negotiate the world. And you wonder, you know, I'd love to know how he sees things, you know, so that I could better interact with him. So, but I guess with everything, consistency is the important thing. Doing the same thing all the time, and
now will he go to a special high school, your son?
Yeah, he's going to be in a special high school next year. So he'll be able to go to the school till he's 21, which is good.
Wonderful.
So he'll be able to stay in that program. Not every program goes up to 21. Some go to 18, but then after 21, that's when we got to worry, because what do we do with him then?
Yeah, my other grandson, who is severely handicapped, is going to be 21, and he's in a special school, and trying to find a place for him that meets his needs is hard. Yeah. And unfortunately, with what's going on in Washington, all this is making it harder and very uncertain. People who are on Medicaid, we all have pre-existing conditions. We don't know what this is going to mean to us. You know, these services that we depend upon and we need and we fought for. Nobody gave us anything. It's a very trying situation. We worry a lot about how we're going to cover the costs if this is taken away. So we're in the same boat, whether we're old, young, or whatever. We have to always be on our toes. And so, what do you want to say? You want to invite people to meet you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to meet you on July 19th. We'll be 1:30 at the Woodland Commons Music Room. Myself and May will be speaking and talking about the topic of autism, to let know that families are not alone in this journey, and that's the basis of our program and my organization, autismradio.org. We've been around for 10 years helping families and individuals with autism. And that's what we do.
And you're serving refreshments?
Yes. That's what happens when you have the head of dining. And you know, that you shouldn't have said that, because then 10,000 people were going to show. God, you know, you saw from what you did, did last month.
That's right.
Feed them and they will come, especially alcohol.
My goodness. We're not having alcohol. Alcohol. Don't worry about that.
You shouldn't have said that.
No, they won't come then. Just kidding.
Even for cookies, they'll come.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing. Yeah. But you know, the more we know about anything, the less fear we have, and the more choices we have for ourselves. And I'm talking about myself, you know, as the changes is going through in my body, the more I know, the less fear I have, so I can do something for myself.
Right.
And just as Paul shares his information with other people, so do we share information here.
Right.
And it's really very, very good.
We do. So we want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
On the spot.
Coming on. Yes.
Well, we're always good at winging things, right?
That's right.
We love doing
Sometimes that's
the
the best way to do it.
And don't forget, you have a special honor, and we'll have to get him a special.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a special notice for you being on that show.
Well, thank
you.
so
being on our show is very special. Okay, so
thank you for being on,
and
we hope that you will come to the program on the 19th, and we want to wish you a good day. It's a little muggy and cloudy out, so I don't know about going out for a walk, but anyway, wish you a wonderful day, and join us again next week for another wonderful guest, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.